Hi, everyone, and welcome to Patriot's Payroll Software Overview. We're glad that you have joined us today. We actually have a lot of different groups of people on the call with us today. You could be a small business owner who runs payroll for your own employees. You could be an accountant who runs payroll for your clients. You might be an existing Patriot customer, or you might not yet be a Patriot customer, but you're here to check out our offering. So for that, we thank you for spending this hour with us. I also want to thank all of you who have submitted questions when you registered for the webinar, because that lets us focus on the topics that you want to know about. And I will be peppering answers to all of your questions throughout this presentation. So just a little bit about me. My name is Annie Hambaugh. I'm the Director of Training here at Patriot. I've been with Patriot since the very beginning when the company first started 18 years ago in various roles of HR, product management, and training. And with me today, I am pleased to introduce to you my colleague, Hannah Fricker.
Hi, everyone. My name's Hannah. I'm the Digital Training Coordinator, and I've been with Patriot for about 5 years now in various roles, HR, security, and now training.
Great. So glad Hannah is here with me today, and she and I are going to actually be tag teaming the presentation as we go along today. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with Patriot, who is Patriot? So Patriot is accounting and payroll software as a service. Our mission is to make accounting and payroll fast, simple, and affordable for millions of American businesses and their accountants. We are headquartered in Canton, Ohio, home of the Football Hall of Fame, and we have been in business since 2002. Just a couple of housekeeping items I do want to cover with you today before we dive in. You are in attendee mode. So this means your microphone and camera are turned off. I cannot see or hear you. You can submit questions during the presentation by using the Q&A button on your toolbar. We do have a team of Patriot panelists that will answer your questions as we go. We will be emailing you a video recording of today's webinar and a feedback survey. And this video will also be available in our Help Center and on our YouTube channel. So our goals for today, we're going to take a deeper dive into our payroll product. We're going to cover payroll settings and options, common payroll tasks, payroll reports, payroll integrations with other solutions, and an overview of our time and attendance and our HR or human resources product overviews. So the first thing I want to cover is in our payroll product, we have two versions. We have a full service payroll option and a basic payroll option. So what are the differences between full service and basic payroll? The main difference is who is dealing with your payroll taxes. So you'll see in the top of my list here, both full service payroll and basic payroll have access to the same software. It's the same software and it's going to work the same regardless of which option you choose. You're going to get free setup and support, free direct deposit and printable checks. There are no tax tables to download. Patriot maintains all of our tax rate calculations. You will have access to printable W-2s at the end of the year and access to an employee portal so that your employees can log in, see their paycheck information, and manage some of their own information. So full service payroll takes it a step further, where we're going to deposit and file your federal, state, and local payroll taxes if you have state or local taxes. We are going to file your W-2s and W-3s at year end, and we guarantee our tax calculations and our tax filings to be on time. So that's the difference. The majority of our customers choose full service payroll because honestly, why would you want to deal with your own payroll taxes if you didn't have to? So we have an expert tax team working for us that will handle all of your tax filing for you. So most of our customers do choose the full service payroll option, but you do have the option to file your own taxes. We give you some pre-filled partially forms and you can file those yourself. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to flip over to my test account here. I'm going to stop my video. And what I'm going to go through is just a little tour of this left menu here. So I have already gone through a one-time setup process that new customers go through when they first sign up with Patriot. We'll be asking you some questions about how to set up your account. So I've already been through this process. So if you're a current customer, this is what you see when you log in. So on the left here, we have a COVID resource link. So when you click this COVID link, it's actually going to open a new browser tab and take you to our help center on our public website. There you can have access to any type of COVID related topic, both in general and how specifically it works in our software. And then moving down the page here, all the rest of these left links keep you within the software. This is going to be the way that you will navigate within the software. So starting at the top, I am on my dashboard. So this acts as my home page. You're going to see that I have some big shortcuts to common tasks. I have both our payroll and our accounting product in this test account. So you're going to see some other accounting common tasks as well. This is also where if we have messages from Patriot that we want to communicate with you, this is where you will see them. Moving down the menu here, we have our accounting product. So you'll notice when I clicked this, a sub menu opens up of our accounting software. And I do want to mention that we did host a webinar last March that gave an overview of our accounting product. So if you missed that webinar, and if you want to check it out, we will include a link to that webinar when we send you the email at the end of this webinar. You can also find this in our help center and on our YouTube channel. So I'm going to click this again and it'll zip that back up. So moving forward, this is our payroll menu. So again, you'll see a sub menu of payroll tasks open up under this main payroll menu. This is where we're going to spend most of today. Moving down the list, we have a reports page. This reports page is where you're going to find all of your reports for all of our products. So it is a one-stop shop. If you have our accounting product, you'll see accounting reports, 1099 reports, payroll tax filing reports. And then if you do have our add-ons, reports for time and attendance and some additional HR reports. Moving down the left menu here, we have a settings page. Similar to reports, this is your one-stop shop for all of the settings for your account. So on the left here, you will see just general account settings. And then if you have our accounting product, this is where you will maintain all of your accounting settings. And then finally, all of your payroll settings. So we're going to spend some time in these settings today to show you some of the features. At the very bottom here, we also have a marketplace page. So I would encourage you to check out our partnerships for special offers and integrations that we have. So that is the marketplace. So let's dive right in. I'm going to open my payroll menu on the left here. The first thing I'm going to click on is this overview page. So the payroll overview looks similar to the big dashboard that we first started at. This is kind of your mini dashboard just for your payroll product. So again, you're going to see the same common tasks that you can do right from here. And then you're also going to show just a snapshot of your most recent payrolls and your most recent tax collections. And then again, messages from Patriot on here. They also show on the dashboard. So let's jump right in and run a new payroll. This is why we're all here today, is to see our payroll process. So I've clicked run a new payroll, and there's going to be some things on this page that I want to show you before we dive in. So the first thing I want to mention is that by default, these pay period start, end, and pay date fields are pre-filled for me. This is an option. So if I click the show advanced options, pre-fill payroll dates is an option. So if you like having these be pre-filled, now this only works if your pay frequencies are either weekly or biweekly, then go ahead, keep it to yes. And then just keep in mind, if you happen to run any one-off payrolls that are not in your normal payroll schedule, just keep that in mind that you might have to override these dates, and you can certainly change them very easily. So I've got that set. I just wanted to point that out to you. I also have direct deposit set up in my payroll account. So by default, they're going to be enabled. And for whatever reason, if you needed to disable direct deposit, if you needed to, run a paycheck and you wanted to cut those lives check immediately, you would simply just disable direct deposit so that the deposit to the employee's bank account does not happen. Another couple of things I want to mention here is that if you pay different groups of employees on a different pay frequency, for example, if you pay some employees on weekly and some employees biweekly, you would actually see an extra drop-down menu that you're not seeing here. But you'll be able to switch and choose the pay frequency that you want to pay, and then it's only going to filter just your weekly people, just your biweekly people. You can also filter by semi-monthly, quarterly, annually, whatever you have your pay frequency set to. You can also filter by work location. So if you have more than one worksite location, you can run payrolls just for that one location if needed. So you have some flexibility on who you want to pay. In my case, my account is very simple, and I'm just keeping it simple for the purpose of the webinar today. I've got 3 hourly employees. I've got Betsy, Jason, and Sammy, and then I've got 1 salary employee, Barbara. So you'll see my hourly employees are grouped, and then I've got my salary employees. So if I had more than 1 salary employees, they would be down here. So another thing I want to mention is that right now you're only seeing 3 different hour types. So you're only seeing regular, overtime, and vacation, because these are my most frequently used hour types. I have more set up, but I don't want to see them every time I run a payroll. Same with money. I only have 2 money types, even though I've got more set up. If you do want to see all of the hours and money that you have set up, there is a toggle on the right side here called Show All Pay Types and Rates. Watch what happens when I click this toggle. It's going to show me all of the hours and all of the money that I have set up. So if you don't want to see every single thing you've got set up every payroll, but you still need them occasionally, you can set them to be frequently used and then only see your quote unquote favorite ones. And I will show you how to set those a little bit later on. So let's go ahead and let's enter some hours and money for these employees. I want to point out that if you have our time and attendance add-on, the employees would be entering their time on their time cards. You would be reviewing and approving them, and you would be importing their hours into this screen. So there would be no data entry if you have our time and attendance product. So in my case, I'm just showing you how to just data enter right on this page. And then later on, I will show you how to import hours from time cards. So let's look at Betsy here. She's the first employee in the list. She has 2 different hourly pay rates for 2 different jobs. And you'll notice we give you the ability to put the title or some sort of differentiator between those 2 pay rates. Hourly employees can be paid up to 5 different pay rates. Employees can also be assigned to departments. So you'll see I've got a couple departments here that I have assigned employees to. So I'm going to go ahead, just going to enter 40 hours for Betsy. She only worked at her 1 job this week. And then notice over here, this is a cell phone allowance. It's a little truncated here. I have it set up to automatically pay her a flat dollar amount every single time I run a payroll. So if you have housing allowance, cell phone allowance, any kind of flat dollar amount that you want to pay every single time automatically, you can set that up. And then you can change or remove that if needed, but this will automatically show up here, which is a nice feature. It just saves you from having to remember to enter that. So I'm all finished with Betsy. Let me just move down here. I'm going to enter some hours for Jason. I'm going to add 8 vacation for him. Just going to enter 40 for him. Now for him, he gets some commission. So you'll notice here, we will total up their gross pay. So we're not calculating their deductions and taxes just yet. This is just telling you what their gross pay amount is. And then moving on to the salary employee, we have this little pay toggle. So by default, salary employees will be included and paid in the payroll, and it's going to show you the salary rate. Now, in most cases, you're not going to need to enter actual hours for salary employees, because what you put here does not affect what they are being paid. Now, if you were to add more money, so say we wanted to give her more commission or any type of money type, that definitely will increase her gross pay. But as far as the number of hours, that is only used in certain situations. There are some states that require that salary hours be tracked. And then also if a salary employee has a time off accrual, you will need to enter hours so that they accrue time off by the hour. And we will get into that in more detail in a little bit. Okay, so at this point, I've entered hours and money for my employees, and I'm ready to move on. So what I want to do is, you'll notice at the very bottom here, before I click continue, there is a checkbox that says, I also want to pay 1099 contractors on this pay run, which I do because I want to show you how that looks. So you'll notice if I click that, it changes from continue to contractors. Had I not paid contractors, I would move right to step 2. But because I want to pay my contractors, there's just one extra page that we're going to put in between here. And this page will show the contractors. There we go. So I have 3 contractors set up. And again, we'll show you a little bit more about how to add and how the contractors record looks. So I've got 3 contractors here that I can pay along with my employees in this payroll. Their 1099 type is set on their record. So if I need to change it here, I can. These 1099 types are the ones that are defined by the IRS. So in the case, most non-employee compensation is a popular type. So that will be set on their record. So that's already set when you come here. For an expense account, if you have our accounting product, you will need to note what expense account you want to book this payment to, because a journal entry will be made when you run this payroll and it will be booked to this expense account. So again, this is set on their record. It's already pre-filled. If this wasn't pre-filled on the record, this would be required and you would have to pick an expense account here. Departments are optional. So if I wanted to assign this contractor payment to a department, I could do that, or I could leave it blank. And then I'm simply just going to add the amount of payments. In this case, I just want to pay my first 2 contractors. I don't want to pay the third one. So any contractors that show on this list that you don't want to pay, simply ignore them and leave them blank. So I'm finished with my contractor payments. Now I am ready to move on to step 2. So you're seeing we're still in step 1 of payroll. So I'm going to choose review payroll. I'm going to click that. And then this is where we do all of the payroll calculations. So you'll see I'm on approve payroll step 2. If I need to make any changes from this page, once I've reviewed everything, I can click back to employees, which takes me back to the very beginning, make any changes, and same with back to contractors. So if I do need to make changes, this is how you go back, make your changes, because payroll is not finalized yet. This is the step where you're going to be looking at everything and making sure that everything looks good. Couple of other things I want to point out. Because I'm a full service payroll customer, Patriot's going to be withdrawing payroll taxes from my bank account. So it's going to be giving me the total amount that's going to be withdrawn, and it's going to show me the date that will happen. And then because I have direct deposit, in this case, all 4 of my employees plus my 2 contractors are being all paid with direct deposit. So you can pay contractors with direct deposit, just like you can with employees. And it's going to show me the total amount that Patriot needs to withdraw from my bank account so that that money can be dispersed into the bank accounts of these employees and contractors. And it'll tell you the date that will be happening. So again, this will show you the summary of the hours, the gross pay, the net pay. If there was a live check, that would show in here. You can have payroll go into both live checks and direct deposit, even within the same employee. So if some employees want to have some money direct deposited and then the rest in a live check, you can do that. But you can also have employees putting all of their money in direct deposit and then other employees having live checks. So that is possible. And then if I click this view details link at the very top, this is going to show me a breakdown of all of the details of this employee's paycheck. So it's going to look the same as what the employee sees on their pay stub. So it's going to show me their hours, their earnings. In this case, Betsy has accrued time off. And so she's accruing a little bit of vacation, and it's going to show that here. And it's also going to show it to her when she views her time, her pay stub. It's going to show the details of her direct deposit. So in this case, Betsy's got 2 different bank accounts. She's got 100 going into her savings, and then the rest is going into checking. It's going to show any deductions that are being made from her pay for various benefits. And then it's going to show employer contributions. So you can set up a company match or any type of employer paid benefit to show here. This amount does not affect her pay. It's only an informational number, and it's just for reporting to show both you and the employee what the company is contributing on their behalf. Moving over here, you can see the taxes. And in this case, Betsy is in Florida, so you're not seeing any state or local income taxes. However, if you did have an employee working in a state that does have income taxes, you would see more than just these 3 here. And then finally, employer taxes. So again, because I am in Florida, you're not seeing any type of state tax there. So there's going to be 1 entry for each employee. So you'll see this is for Jason. This is for Sammy. And then scrolling down further, you're going to see the totals for all the employees. And then full service payroll customers are also going to see a breakdown of that amount that Patriot's going to be withdrawing from your account for each type of tax. So you'll see that as a breakdown here. You'll also be able to report on that later. So this is not the only place that you're going to be seeing that, but it just gives you a preview and an explanation of how we came up with that total. And then finally, you're going to see the contractor payment details. So assuming everything looks good, I'm going to move on to the 3rd step, which is to approve my payroll. Okay, so I am finished payroll. My payroll has been completed. And so now, because I have my account set to actually print payrolls, this is an option. So you don't always have to print, especially if your employees are getting direct deposit and they have access to their employee portal. So if you want, you can print later. If you don't have access to your printer right now, if it's not convenient, you can just choose to print later. And then there will be a print payrolls link, see over here in this left menu, where anytime you can go in and reprint or print for the first time your pay stubs and paychecks. In my case, I'm just going to go ahead and print now so I can show you how that looks. And in this payroll that I just ran, I have paid employees and I've paid contractors. So I'm going to have to download two different versions of pay stubs, one for each group. When I do this, when I click download direct deposit stubs, a PDF will be downloaded to your device. And let me show you what that looks like. Okay. So in this case, I have 4 employees that I paid. So you'll see there's a 4-page PDF. There is 1 page per person. And this is not a live check. You're not going to see anything down here because they have deposited all of their money in direct deposit. So this is just a pay stub. So you have the option to just feed blank paper in your printer. You can print these pay stubs, hand hard copies, or mail them to your employees. However, again, if the employee has access to their portal, they have access to this information. So there would not be any need for you to print hard copies of these unless you choose to. Now, let's say that you print live checks. So instead of printing stubs, what would happen is if you go and it would change from print checks instead of print stubs, it would look like this. So your live check could be either on the top third or the bottom third of the page. And again, it's going to be 1 employee per page. And it will still have the same pay stub information at the bottom, but this is where you would feed your check stock into your printer and print the actual live check. So you'll notice we do have an option for you to upload a signature file so that you can print that right on the check. You don't have to wet sign each check. And then you also have the option, our accountants a lot of times print on completely blank check stock so that they can print from different bank accounts. So we do have that option if you're using completely blank check stock and you're using the correct magnetic toner that the banks require for printing this. We have that option as well. So mostly accountants use that, where they're using blank check stock and running payroll for many clients on many different bank accounts. So that is an option there. Okay, now that we have been through the process, I'm going to back up and go through some settings and show you how I got to that point of actually running my payroll. So this is our settings page again. I found this in the left menu here. I'm not going to cover every single link on this page for the sake of time, but just some things I want to point out. So the first thing I want to show you is the company settings. So again, I've been through the one-time setup wizard. This is where you'll go to make any future changes to your account. So the things I want to point out here is under company settings, we have manage departments and manage locations. So the first thing I want to show you is this is an option. So if you choose, you can create as many departments as you need. These are used in both payroll and accounting. So if you have both of our products, you can assign departments to both employees and also accounting transactions. Moving back to settings, I also want to point out manage locations. So if your business has different physical locations, you can set these up and assign them to your employees. That way your employee taxes will be calculated correctly based on the physical location of where they're working. I want to point out that if your employees work from home, you do not need to enter employee home addresses here. So this is only for actual physical worksite locations that are not employee homes. When employees do work from home, there is a flag on their record that you will be able to set that employee works from home. And then the software is going to use their home address to calculate their payroll taxes. Moving back to the settings page, I'm going to go over here on the right side, and I'm going to focus on some payroll settings here. So these links are alphabetized, if you notice, and I'm not going to go through them in alphabetical order. I'm going to kind of jump around and show you some different things. So the first thing I'm going to show you is hours and money types. So you'll recall when I flipped that little toggle switch when I was running payroll and I wanted to see all of my hours and all of my money, this is where I would go to set them up. we are going to start you off when you create your Patriot account with some commonly used hours and money types. So you're not going to have to start from a blank slate. We're going to give you some common types, and then you can further customize. You can add more as you need. And so you'll see here on the right side, this is where you can denote that they are frequently used. So if you recall, only my regular overtime and vacation hours showed when I first ran my payroll. So this is where you'll set that up. And then moving on to money, monies are paid as flat dollar amounts. So you can pay bonuses, sales commissions, anything that are in addition to hours. So they can set up to be automatically included in the employee's payroll by toggling on this repeating switch. So this is where, if you'll recall, Betsy had her $15 cell phone allowance. That's because I've set up this money type to be able to be repeating. And then on Betsy's record, which we'll show you in a little bit, we'll show you where that $15 allowance gets set up. We also had some questions come in about cash tips. So when you start your account, we're going to give you two money types for tips that you can use. So there is a tips already paid and tips that are owed. I just want to briefly go over those real quick. So when employees have already taken home their cash tips, you're going to use this tips already paid money type. You're going to need to make sure that the gross pay in their check has enough to withhold taxes, because that's the whole point of using this, is we need to make sure that the employee is taxed on that money that they have already gotten. So you're going to need to make sure to pay enough so that those tips already paid can be taxed. And then it's not going to be included in their net pay because they already have this money that they've already been paid. It will also be properly reported on their W-2. Tips owed is similar, where it will be properly taxed. However, this will be included in their net pay, such as, if they were paid a tip through a credit card and they didn't get it that day, this is where you would use the tips owed money type. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that because we did have a couple of questions come in about that. I'm going to move back to our settings page where we were, and I'm going to click under payroll settings, the deductions and contributions settings. So this is where you would set up your company level deductions and contributions. So let me explain the difference between these two. Employee deductions are things like 401k deferrals, a wage garnishment, medical, HSA, anything that is deducted from the employee's pay and reduces their take-home pay. You can set how deductions are taxed, whether they're before or after income tax is calculated. And once these are set up at the company level, you can then set them up on the employee's records. So moving down here, contributions, these are the employer contributions that the employer contributes towards the cost of benefits, such as 401k company match, the employer's share of their medical insurance, and other company paid benefits. So as I mentioned, the contributions that you set up do not affect the employee's pay at all. It's simply an informational number where you can run reports and the employee can also see what the company is contributing. So you can set a formula to calculate a contribution, such as a 401k match. You can set a fixed dollar amount for medical premiums and other things. So once these are set up at the company level, they will be available when you go to the employee's record to assign to each employee. So I'm going to go back to our settings page. I'm going to move on to paycheck printing options. So this touches a little bit on what I showed you before with these different options for printing. So on this page, if you don't print at all, if you have no need to print live checks or stubs, you don't even need to come to this page at all. You don't need to print. If you're doing check stub only, if everybody you pay is direct deposit, you also don't need to come to this page. You'll actually select that when you first set up. You never have to come here again. However, for the people who print live checks, you will want to come in here and make sure that your checks print properly on your check stop. So you will choose either check on top or check on bottom. So your check stock needs to be on 8.5 by 11 inch paper. We actually have a link up here. We had a couple questions. Where do you buy the check stock? So we do have a partner. You can click check stock here and it will take you to our partner site where you can purchase the check stock there. You don't have to buy it from them, but it does work with our software. Moving down here, you've got some options for what displays on this check. Again, this is where you can upload your electronic signature. And then this is where you can indicate whether or not you're going to be using pre-printed check stock, where all you're needing is just the information that's going to be changing on each check. Or if you need to print your bank account, this is how that's going to look. So this is where you'll enter all of that bank account information, and then that will show up there. The one thing I recommend is that click print sample. When you do that, it's going to open up a PDF and it's going to show you a grid of how things are going to be placed on the check. So what I would recommend is put a piece of your check stock in your printer, print this off, see how it looks, see what needs to be changed, because you can change all of these elements. How you do that is at the bottom here, you will click layout adjustments and you will nudge the items by changing the column and row numbers. One thing I forgot to point out when we were on the payroll screen is help icons. Let me just move back because let me just show you this real quick. I just want to show you both where we have video and help icons. Okay, so here, if you see these little TV icons throughout the software, you can click that and a training video will pop up right on your screen so you can watch a video about this page. And then we have sprinkled these little question mark icons throughout the pages in the software. So if you hover over it, it's going to show you a hint about that topic. And then if you click that icon, it's going to open up a help article in a new browser tab. So again, these little guys are your friends. Please use them. All right, let me go back to where I was under the paycheck printing options. Sorry for the jump around, but that was an important thing I wanted to show you. So under layout adjustments, I'm not going to get into exactly how to do this. So what I would suggest is click the help icon. It will take you right to a help article and a training video that gives you more information about this. So I'm going to include a link to that help article also in the email that we'll be sending everybody who registered. All right, moving on to back to our settings page. I want to talk a little bit about direct deposit. So Patriot does offer direct deposit at no extra charge. There is an application process in order to be approved to use direct deposit. So what this application process does, it lets us verify your personal identity. So who you are, who you say you are, the nature of your business, and also to confirm that the bank account you're using is a valid business or commercial account and not a personal bank account. If you are a full service customer and you have direct deposit, Patriot will be using the same bank account to withdraw both direct deposit funds and tax payment funds. So to apply for direct deposit, if you're a new customer and you're in our payroll setup wizard, you will have the opportunity to indicate then that you do want to apply for a direct deposit. So you can start the application process right in our wizard. You can also start it here from our settings page. So under settings, under payment settings, you would click direct deposit settings. Now, in my case, I already have direct deposit set up, so I'm not going to show you the actual application, but this is the page you would come to. There's going to be a big purple button to start the direct deposit application. And we have a dedicated risk team that personally reviews and approves each application that is submitted. So the normal approval process takes 5 to 7 business days. And if there's any missing information or if anybody's got questions, they will contact you via email. And then you'll also get an email once your direct deposit has been approved and you're ready to begin using it in payrolls. Moving back to settings, one final thing here I want to cover is state unemployment rates. So, or SUTA, S-U-T-A. So SUTA tax rates are based on your own business's personal history of unemployment claims. So you're going to need to find your own SUTA tax rate for your business and enter it in Patriot. If you receive a notice that your state unemployment tax rate has changed, this is where you will go to change it. So when you first sign up with Patriot, you're going to be entering your SUTA tax rate in the wizard, and then all future tax rate changes, this is where you'll come. So you'll come to the settings page under payroll settings, and you'll click state unemployment rates. So here, in my case, I have some history with some test data here, but if you do need to change your rate, you'll simply click edit at the top. You'll choose the effective date of the new rate. So you'll notice it's at the beginning of every calendar quarter, and your tax notice will tell you when your effective date is. and then you will enter your tax rate here. So keep in mind, each state has different formatting for how to enter the tax rate. So just be mindful of that when you're entering that. All you have to do is enter it there, save it, and then it will show in your history here. If you are a full service customer, we may end up making these SUTA tax rate changes for you. So if we are getting your tax notices, we will make the updates for you. There's nothing you'll need to do, but we will notify you with an email if we do make the change on your behalf. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears. I'm going to turn it over to Hannah, and she is going to cover managing employees and contractors.
Thanks, Annie. So to manage employees, we can go to Payroll, Employees, and Employee List. On this page, we can see a list of all of our employees. You can view their status, pay type, pay frequency, and whether or not they have registered for their employee portal. If you need to add a new employee, you can click Add New at the top. So we're first going to look at our first employee, Betsy. On this first page, we can see basic employee info, personal information, contact info, work info, and demographics. You're only going to see this demographics section if you have our HR add-on. If you need to make any edits, you can click the edit button. And employees can also make their own edits in their employee portal as well. Moving on to our next tab, pay info. On this tab, we can see pay info, any repeating money types, W-2 information, and status. In the first section, pay info, this is where you can add any additional pay rates. So to do that, we'll click edit. And underneath the pay rates we currently have, we can click add another pay rate. We'll add that there. And then underneath adding additional pay rates, we can set up the additional repeating money type that Annie showed us at the beginning when we were running payroll. So we're going to go ahead and cancel these and move on to our next tab, direct deposit. You're only going to see this direct deposit tab if you have direct deposit set up. I first want to point out the first column, active. This column tells you whether or not the bank account is active, not the employee. And then moving on to the last column, amount. If an employee has more than one bank account, you can set it as a percent, a fixed dollar, or a remainder. If an employee only has one bank account set up, it'll automatically default to remainder. And employees can have an unlimited amount of direct deposit accounts. And if you need to add any new accounts, you can do so at the top. And we'll move on to our next tab, paychecks. On our paychecks tab, the dates at the top are going to default to the most recent pay date. If you need to change those, you can do so by clicking the calendar icon. And this report will show a list of all paychecks specific to this employee. And we'll move on to our next tab, taxes. On our taxes tab, this is where you can manage federal, state, and local taxes if you have any. And if you need to make any changes to an employee's federal tax withholding, you will need to use the 2020 version of the W-4, and you can do that by clicking Edit and selecting from the dropdown. And then we'll go back to our previous page and look at the federal taxes history chart. So employees can make changes to their own federal tax withholding in their employee portal. And if they do, this chart will automatically update for you to see the date and the new W-4 form. All right, and underneath that, we can see state withholding. Betsy lives in a state with no state or local tax withholding, so it's going to say no income tax for her. And we'll move on to our next tab, advanced tax settings. This tab isn't one that you will come to often, but you will only come to this page if an employee is exempt from having taxes withheld. You can set that up here. And our next tab, deductions and contributions. So these deductions and contributions are specifically assigned to Betsy. You're first going to want to add the deduction and contribution on the company level first, and then you can assign it to each employee. Once you've assigned it to your employee, you can then customize any amounts and limits. And our next tab, time. You will only see this time tab if you have the time and attendance add-on, or if you already have set up the time off accrual rule. As you can see, I have one set up, and we will get into this in just a moment. And moving on to our next tab, HR. You will only see this tab if you have our HR add-on, and you can manage current position info, status history, position history, emergency contacts, notes, attachments, and again, any repeating money types. And as you can see at the end of each section, you can add, you can edit, and you can also delete. All right, and moving on to our last tab, Employee Portal. We can see that Betsy has already registered for her employee portal, so we're going to go to an employee who hasn't yet. We'll go to our drop-down and we'll switch to Barbara. Barbara has not yet registered, so we can go ahead and click Send Invite. Barbara is going to receive a nice email from us, and she'll just need to click Register Now. So there's the email. And once that opens, she's going to see that she needs to create a username and password. And once she's done entering that, she can go ahead and click register and log in. And this will take us right into our employee portal. So this is the first page that employees are going to see. As you can see, there's common tasks, viewing paychecks, they can print their pay stubs, they can enter their time, manage their own direct deposit, manage their own personal information, and they can also manage their login info from here. And we're going to completely switch gears and start talking about our contractors. So we'll go back into our account. Now, contractors, these are independent 1099 contractors, not W-2 employees. So no taxes or deductions are going to be withheld, but you still can pay them with direct deposit in our software. They can be paid as part of your employee process, like Annie showed us at the beginning, or you can pay them separately without employees. And you can do this by going to Pay Contractors underneath our Payroll menu. So this page would take you to the same page that we had seen when we were running payroll with employees. And you can see at the top, it's the same three-step process as before. All right, so we're going to go into our contractor list underneath our payroll menu. Yep. Perfect. And just like the employee list, you can see a list of your contractors, and at a glance, you can see whether or not they are active and whether or not we create a 1099 for them. If you need to add one contractor at a time, you can click Add New at the top. If you want to bulk import a list of contractors, you can click Import Contractors. And if needed, you can also export and download that spreadsheet of all of your contractors. So we're first going to look at our first contractor, A1 Heating and Cooling. And just like our employee list, we can see basic contractor information. In that first section, default expense account only shows if you have our accounting product. So any payments you make to the contractor will be recorded in your general ledger under this expense account that we have previously set up. And if you use departments, you can set up a default department as well. And in the middle of the page, 1099 type. In this contractor's case, their 1099 type is non-employee compensation. And for more information about the different types of 1099s, you can see help articles in our help center. And finally, if you want to have a default check memo that shows up on their check every time you pay them, you can set that here as well. All right, moving on to our next tab, payments. On our payments tab, we can see all the payments that have been made to this contractor. And at the bottom of each check, you can also void it. And moving on to our next tab, attachments. If there are any attachments that you'd like to add to this contractor's record, you can do so by clicking Add Attachment. And moving on to bank account. This will only appear if you use direct deposit, and this is where you will manage that bank account info for direct deposit, and contractors can only be paid into one bank account at a time. And finally, our last tab, 1099 reports. This report will show you a preview of what their 1099 is going to report at the end of the year, and we do offer e-filings of 1099s as an optional service, and there is more information about that in our help center as well. All right, so now that we've covered how to manage employees and contractors, let's move on to some common payroll tasks. And the first one we're going to review is how to manage time off. So if you use time off accrual rules where employees earn a small amount of time for every hour worked, you can set up time off accrual rules by going to Settings, Payroll Settings, and Time Off Accruals. As you can see, I do have one rule already set up, and that is earn one vacation hour for every 30 hours worked. I can have as many rules as I'd like, and I can assign as many rules as I'd like to an employee. And if we want to add a new rule, we can click Add New Rule. I can call this rule whatever I'd like. And this is where I would create the formula for how many hours an employee earns. And below that, there are other settings, whether we want to put a limit on the number of hours that are earned, and whether the hours should expire or whether they should carry over into the next calendar year. You can also choose which employees you want to assign it to here, and then you can save. If you have salaried employees that accrue time off, you will need to enter the number of hours in the payroll in order for them to accrue that time. These hours will not affect their pay, it's just for the purpose of accruing time. So now that we've seen how to set up an accrual rule, let's look at how to add a lump sum of time off. So for example, if your time off policy gives flat amounts instead, such as 80 hours at the very beginning of the year, we can do that by going to Payroll, Payroll Tasks, and Manage Time Off. You can use this Manage Time Off page to check any employee's time off balance and their time off activity, regardless of whether they accrue their hours or if they're given a lump sum amount, and you can also make adjustments here as well. The dates at the top are automatically going to default to the entire year. And if you need to edit everybody at once, you can click that checkbox at the top and you'll see a button that appears, Edit Vacation Hours for selected employees. And if you want to just edit one employee at a time, you can click the checkbox next to their name. So we're going to look at our first employee, Betsy. We'll view her vacation details. And at the top, we can see starting hours, adjustments, hours used, and hours available. And below, we can see details of each of those activities. Employees can also view their own time off balance in their employee portal and on their check stubs. And if you do need to make any edits, you can click the Manage Vacation button at the top. And with that, I will send it back to you, Annie.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Hannah. So we're still in the mode of payroll tasks. So let's switch gears. And I just want to show you how to void checks. So we're moving away from time off. And under payroll tasks, under the big payroll menu, to void a check, you will choose void checks here. I want to point out that this is just voiding employee paychecks. So if you need to void contractor checks, like Hannah showed you, you will go to the contractor's record and under their payments tab, you can void their contractor checks that way. So these are how you, this is how you void employee checks. If you're a full service customer, you will only be able to void checks that are in the current open tax filing period. So for example, you wouldn't be able to void checks back in January because we've already filed your taxes for you. So if you do need to do that, you're going to have to contact our support department. We can definitely work with you, but you're not going to be able to do that right here in the software yet. So you will be able to select the pay date of the checks you want to void, and then you can either void all of the checks for those employees, or you can just pick and choose which employee checks you want to void. You can also view the details here if needed, and then you'll just simply click Void Selected Checks. And then it's going to show me a confirmation page of the checks before I actually void them. So these checks have actually been direct deposited. So when you void a direct deposit check, it's going to depend on the timing of when you voided that check. I'm going to include information in the email of as far as the timing and what your options are when you do void direct deposit, because if it's already been collected and paid, is handled differently than if it hasn't been. Also, because I'm a full service customer, it's going to show me the refunds that Patriot's going to make back to my bank account for those taxes because the checks have been voided. So assuming, yes, I do want to void these checks, I would simply click yes, and the checks would be voided. When the checks are voided, then they will also show when you're running reports that those checks have been voided. Okay, moving on. Let's go to my reports page. Okay. And then also just real quick under the 1099 contractors, the contractor payment history report, this is where you void the contractor's check. So it's going to have to be one at a time voiding for the contractors. Okay, back to the reports page. A couple other tasks that I want to just briefly touch on, but I'm not going to have time to get into full details, is W-2s and 1099s at the end of the year. So once you are finished running all of your payrolls for the year and paying all your contractors for the year, this is where you will go to create your W-2 forms. Now, employees have the option. They need to agree to receive their W-2 electronically, but you can actually post electronic versions of the W-2s to the employee in their portal so that you don't have to print and send hard copy. So that is an option. I'm not going to go over any more detail about that. However, I do cover that in a previous webinar we had. We actually held it last December about some year-end tasks. So in the email that you'll be sent, I'm going to include a link to that webinar. And then you can also find videos and articles in our help center about how to create and post those W-2 forms for the employees. Just to clarify, Patriot does not print and send these to the employees. That would be your responsibility to make sure that they get them. Same with 1099. So for your contractors, you can create and view your 1099 forms, and then you can initiate the e-filing process, which is an optional service that Patriot will do on your behalf. So again, not going to get into the details. I just want to show you where you go at the end of the year to do that. And then in our help center has all of the information, including a video. All right, now that I'm on the payroll reports page, let us switch gears again, and we're going to talk about some payroll reports. So I'm going to concentrate right here in the payroll reports section. Again, these are alphabetized links, so I'm going to jump around here. The first thing I want to do is explain the difference between the payroll register and the payroll details report. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you the payroll register, and you'll see here, because I just voided this check, it's going to show me in red letters that this check was voided. The payroll register report will show you any payroll activity that you have run here in Patriot. So it's going to show you by default the most recent payroll, but you can change these dates to show a date range. So you can see more than one payroll run at a time if needed. And you can also filter by employees. You can keep all of them in there, or if you just need to see a couple people or just one, you can do that here. I want to go back to my reports page and compare that to the payroll details report. The payroll details report is going to be more robust. It's going to include outside activity, such as the payroll history that you have entered year to date when you begin with Patriot, any payroll edits that our support team makes or any corrections, anything including the payrolls that you run in here are going to show. So if you have to run quarter to date reports, year to date reports, this is your friend, the payroll details report. There is a group by function, which is important to know. So say, for example, if I wanted to change this to January and run a year-to-date report, I can group different ways. So I can group by employee. So if I group this by employee, notice my start and end date is starting from the beginning of this year to now. I've got one entry for each employee that I can see to date, what her earnings, hours, deductions, contributions, taxes, wages. So one entry per employee, or I can group by totals and just get one big number for everybody. So there's just one total that's including all employees. So very important report to know about. And it's helpful because you can group it different ways and include different time frames. So year to date, quarter to date, this is what I would recommend. We also had a question about downloading and uploading or exporting payroll data into third-party accounting software. You would come to the payroll details and we have a download spreadsheet option. So this is where you can download this information. And then if you have third-party accounting software, other than QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, I'm going to get to those in a little bit. We do have integrations with those that I'll show you. But if you have other accounting software that is not QuickBooks Online, not QuickBooks Desktop, and not our own accounting software, this is what I would recommend you use to export that information. Moving on, I'm going to go back to my reports page. I also want to show you the direct deposit details report. So this report is handy for showing the activity of direct deposit. So it's going to show you a row per payroll. I can see the details here, and I can see the collection activity from Patriot to my bank account and the collection status. And then I can see the activity of the payment for each employee. So we blind the employee account numbers so that you're only going to be able to see the last 2 digits. You're going to see the amount and the direct deposit status. My account is just a sample account, so this isn't really happening, and that's why you're going to see that. So handy report to refer to if you have questions about what is happening with your direct deposit details. The other report I want to quickly point out is a deductions and contributions report. So if you want to see the actual history of what actually happened in payroll, same with contribution history, you can see that, and then assigned deductions. And so what is going to happen in the future for employees. So you can see that Barbara has this account, this deduction. So this is a handy report that you can see activity of what happened with deductions and contributions, especially if you have a 401k and you need to see both the employee and employer contributions. Moving back to reports, I'm going to quickly touch on some payroll tax reports here. So this 941, this is for basic customers who do not have our tax filing service. This is where you will go to download your partially completed 941 form that you will file quarterly with the IRS. Moving on, we have a payroll tax credits report. So this is going to show our full service customers who have been paying COVID paid leave. This gives you a recap of your COVID payroll tax credits. So it's going to show you what you've earned, what you've used, how much tax credit is remaining, and the status of the tax credit. So that's going to be applied every quarter when we file your taxes. But this is what you can see. You can see the status of that information. Again, click your little help icon here if you want to learn more about how that report works. Moving on down the line here, we have a tax collections report that shows activity of when Patriot has withdrawn money from your bank account. And then we have a tax deposit. So my account doesn't show anything, but it's going to show you when our tax team has made your tax payments to the various federal, state, and local agencies. And then importantly is tax filing. So if you are a full service customer, this is where you're going to go, and my account doesn't have any. It's going to show you the quarterly multiple page PDF that we prepare for you so that you can see copies of all of the federal, state, and local, if you have local, tax filings that we have prepared for you for that quarter. So for example, we just finished the end of the second quarter on June 30th. So our tax team is currently working on your second quarter tax filings. If you're a current full service customer, you will receive an email from us when your tax filings are complete. So it's not necessary to contact us to check the status. You will be notified by us when your tax filing packet is available for you to view. So this is where you'll go to find it, and you'll be able to see all of the detail of the tax filings that we did for you on your behalf. Okay, I'm going to quickly switch to payroll integration. So that covers our payroll reports section. So the first thing I want to talk about is the integration with our own accounting product. So if I go, if I go back to settings, I'm going to go under payroll settings. We have a payroll integration options. So here you can see that I can choose between 3 options for integrating my payroll in Patriot. So my account is set to integrate with our own Patriot accounting product. I will be showing you the QBO and QBD in just a minute. And so you will do a one-time mapping process where you're going to indicate whether you want a one total summary or separate check detail booked in your general ledger. And then down here for your wage and your tax accounts, you're going to select the accounts that you've got set up in your accounting software here so that these each part of this payroll can be booked to the right account in your GL. Same with if you have employee deductions, you can select the liability accounts and company paid contributions. So you're going to have expense and liability for your company paid part. So once you have done this one-time process, when I go to run a payroll, I'm going to go to my accounting menu and I'm going to click my GL. So I'm going into my general ledger, and here you can see in my general ledger, both my contractor payments have posted and then my payrolls. So this is one that I didn't run today. I've run it earlier, but you'll see that there's 3 different entries here. So if I click either one of these 3, I can open up and see all the details to see each line of the journal entry that posted in my accounting GL. Now moving on quickly, I'm going to show you some screenshots of our QuickBooks Online integration. We have just recently made some recent improvements to this. So we are offering the ability to create different mapping profiles and more granular account mapping. So just going to run through some just still screeny slides to show you what this looks like. So you'll be able to choose QuickBooks Online. You'll be entering your QuickBooks Online credentials to connect the two accounts so that Patriot payroll data can flow into your QBO account. You'll be able to choose some settings here. And then the new thing that we have is the ability to use clearing accounts. So if you use clearing accounts, you can indicate that for your taxes or direct deposit. And then here is where you'll answer, do you need to map your employee journal entries to the same account? So if you do need to create different accounts for different groups of people, you will choose no. And then this is how it will look. So say, for example, I want to create a mapping profile to book my officer payroll differently than the rest of my employees. So I will call this something meaningful because this is actually going to show up in your journal entry ledger in QBO. And then here is where I will select the accounts that will appear that you have set up in QBO. So you can choose from those lists. So I can set a default account and I can select granular accounts. So for example, if I have an owner payroll expense account, I can choose that. And then I can get even more granular and say I want to book my bonuses to a special bonuses account that I've got set up in QBO. I can do that. So I can just keep adding rows to book specific hour and money types that I've got set up. Same with employee taxes. So if I want to get really granular, I can map different types of the employee tax to different liability accounts. So it's all going to depend on what accounts you've got set up in QBO that will show in the drop-down box here. And then same with employee deductions. You can just have one default account, or you can get granular and map specific deductions to specific liability accounts. Same with the company paid contributions for your expense and liability. So skipping ahead, I have set up two different mapping profiles. I've got one for my officer, one for all other employees. So fast forward, I have run a payroll. Patriot has sent that information to QBO. So when I go to QBO and I open it up, this is what my journal entry looks like. So you'll notice, I want to point out here, the description is going to contain the name of your mapping profile so that you can see a distinction between those two. And then every piece will be booked. This screeny doesn't show the entire journal entry, but if I were to scroll down, you would also see in your checking account any amounts that Patriot has withdrawn for either taxes or direct deposit. So in a nutshell, that is our QBO. I do want to point out this is in beta testing. So if you are a current Patriot customer and you have currently set up your QBO integration, if you are interested in giving us feedback, this is not live to the masses yet, I will include a link in the email so that you can set up and we can hook up, upgrade your account so that you can see this new and improved QBO functionality. And then you can work with us, give us your feedback. And then eventually all current Patriot customers who have this QBO integration will be upgraded to this. So we're currently still in beta, getting feedback, making our tweaks. Let me move on to QBD very quickly. If you have QBD, you can download an IIF file to upload into your QBD. So there's a one-time setup process, just like I showed you before. So you'll map your accounts and then you'll come here. You'll see an extra link on the left side called Export Payroll. So you'll go to Export Payroll. You'll see this page. You'll enter your starting journal entry number, run the report, an IIF file will download to your device, and then that's what you will use to upload that into QBD. Also, if you have QuickBooks Time, we do have a QuickBooks Time integration, formerly known as T-Sheets. So you can connect your QuickBooks Time account and import your hours into Patriot. So there's a one-time mapping process where you're just going to match your employee names between the two accounts, make sure everything is matched. And then when you go to run payroll, you're going to see this extra button to import QuickBooks Time hours. Another thing I want to talk about real quick is we have an integration and a partnership with AP Intego that provides pay-as-you-go workers' comp insurance. With pay-as-you-go workers' comp, you will pay your workers' comp premiums in smaller amounts each time you run a payroll over the course of the entire year instead of a larger lump sum payment. So Patriot's going to send your data to AP Indigo. AP Indigo will calculate what you owe just for that pay period. You're going to get a notification from them. They will debit your premium directly from your bank account, and then that cycle starts over every time you run a payroll. You can get a quote for pay-as-you-go workers' comp in our marketplace page. Remember, at the very bottom of our menu on the left. And I'll also be sending a link to more info in the email. So let us move on. I know we're getting close. Oh, we're already past our hour. I'm so sorry about that. I will be finished very soon, but I do want to briefly touch on our time and attendance and our HR products. So for time and attendance, employees can record their time cards in their portal. You will review and approve those time cards, and then you can send those hours directly to payroll. I want to point out time and attendance is only available for anybody who has a weekly or a biweekly pay frequency. We are planning to expand this to semi-monthly sometime next year. So I want to show you the 3 different methods that employees can be set to enter their time. So the first way is time punch. So if you have hourly employees that you want to have their time card act like a time clock where they can only enter the current time, you can set them to time punch. So here is an employee. The only option they have right now is they've already punched in today at 9:37 a.m. The only option they can do is punch out. So there will be in and out punch sets, and these will be added. They're not limited to just 2 sets. They'll be added, but the employee isn't going to be able to click in any of the other cells on their time card. They're just going to be limited to punching in and punching out. The next option is manual entry, where if you allow your employees to enter their in and out times at any time throughout the day or the week, at the end of the day or the end of the week, they will be able to click on any cell in their time card and edit that as well. And then the third option is for salary employees. They will also be set to manual entry. They're just going to be entering a daily total. They're not going to have in and out times. And again, they have the flexibility to enter this whenever they want. The other thing I wanted to mention is, like we mentioned before, these hours do not affect the employee's pay. It's just for record keeping purposes. So let me switch over real quick back to our account here. I'm going to go to payroll, and under the payroll menu, under time and attendance, we have a manage time cards page. So you'll see this as a manager, this is what you will see to manage the page. So you'll see we've got a nice little dashboard to give you a snapshot of what is happening. You can click in each employee's time card if you need to see more details. So here I'm clicking into Betsy. I can click and add hours, and the employees see this same entry method. So this is what the employees will see if they have the manual entry. They'll be able to enter their hours this way. Also, if they need to enter vacation or other non-worked hours, see this little other hours row. So you'll click that, and then this is where any of the other non-worked hours, this is where you can enter vacation hours. So I'm going to exit her time card, but I can see that everybody has hours entered. So what I can do, I have a few different things. I have the option to do some bulk actions to everybody, or I can just choose one or several employees at a time. I can approve everybody all at once. I can send nudges to employees if they need to be sent a reminder email to complete their time card. You can customize the message, and then the employee will receive an email. So you'll want to make sure that the email address is set up on their record. And then if I need to reject time cards, if something needs corrected that's wrong, that the employee needs to fix, I can send an email. Again, I can customize the message, and I can let the employee know that. So let's just pretend everything looks good, and I'm going to bulk approve all of my employees. So you'll see here the approval status, I have approved. Employees don't necessarily have to approve their own time cards, but they can. But as long as the employer has approved all the time cards, now I can send them to payroll. So I'm going to click send to payroll. This is going to open up back to page step 1, and you'll see, voila, my hours are already entered here. So it's a beautiful thing. It's imported. I don't have any data entry to do unless I need to override or fix anything. So that, in a nutshell, is the time and attendance. I also want to mention that we do have the ability to create custom overtime rules. So if you're in a state or a locality where you need to pay employees something different than the federal rule of one time and a half over 40 hours in a work week, you can set that up, and we have help articles about that. Okay, let us move on to our HR add-on. So this is for employers with larger number of employees that may need to track more detailed information. We give you extended employee reporting, and you'll be able to designate managers so that you can track which employees report to which manager. So I'm going to go back super quick and just remind you on the employees record. I'm going to go back to Betsy. I'm going to go back to her HR info page. Hannah covered all this, but I just want to reiterate, this is the extra tab that you will see when you have the HR info. Also, I want to go to the reports page, and I want to show you again, these are the extra reports that you're going to be getting. So you can also, if you are required to report on EEO or veterans demographics, this is where you will use the demographics report here. So you can use that, and you can download that as a spreadsheet. If I go to settings, we have a couple different HR settings. I can upload employer documents for employees to see in their portal. So if you have a company newsletter, handbook, open enrollment, things like that, employees will be able to log into their portal and see these items. And then finally, going back into my settings, manager settings. So this is where you can designate which of your employees are managers. In my case, Barbara is my only manager. If I go to my employees tab, I can now designate who reports to Barbara. I also want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek. We are working on a new feature where managers will be able to access information when they log into their employee portal, just for their own employees. So this is not ready yet. We are still working on this, but managers, when they log into their portal, these two new sections are what's going to show for them. So they will be able to look at their own employee time cards and approve them. They'll be able to look at their own employee list and get some further information about those employees. So exciting feature coming up. Okay, that brings us to the conclusion of our webinar. I apologize. I know we went a little bit over an hour, but we have so much to cover. It's so hard to get it all fitted in an hour. So I hope that what we have shown you today, I realize it was a whirlwind of information. We will be sending you an email with some links to some of the topics that I covered today. One thing I want to bring up, if you're not a current payroll customer, we invite you to take a demo of our software. What this is a fake account that's preloaded with sample information. You can go to our website, patriotsoftware.com. At the very bottom, there's a link called Take a Self-Guided Demo. So this is not a real account. It's just for you to play around with and get an idea for both our payroll and accounting products. Current Patriot customers, you're more than welcome to take a demo as well. If you have payroll or not accounting and you want to see another product, feel free. I would just warn you, don't get them confused, because this does expire after 30 days and you will have a different login. So wrapping up, if you do have further questions, we will have several options for you to submit questions directly to our teams, and we will be happy to help you. You will be able to find all pricing information on our public website. And then accountants who partner with us, you can find special pricing discounts under the partner section at the bottom of any page on our site. So again, we will be sending you an email with a recording of today's video, along with a survey form. So we would definitely appreciate hearing your feedback. I want to thank my team of Patriot panelists who have been busy answering questions in real time as they came in today. I want to thank my colleague Hannah for being my co-presenter. And especially I want to thank all of you for joining us and taking the time to learn more about our payroll software. Have a great rest of your day.